Hello everybody, it's Dio from Firm But Fair Gaming, bringing you another video. Enjoying all the videos and content we produce, don't forget to click on that subscribe button, click on that like button, and don't be afraid to share. Don't forget to click on the notification button, customize it however you want, but that way you're notified whenever we publish another video. Hello everyone, welcome to another Diablo 3 video here for Season 27. Today we are taking a look at the Crusader and we are looking at the Armor of Akkhan. So for those that are unfamiliar with this set, the two-piece bonus is Judgment has no cooldown and gains the effect of every rune. The four-piece is attacks from Phalanx avatars reduce the cooldown of Akkhan's champion by half a second and also apply Condemn when attacking enemies that are affected by Judgment. And lastly, the six-piece is while Akkhan's champion is active, you deal 1500% more damage and take 50% less damage. So this build is actually a pet build because of the Phalanx. So we will be using the Enforcer, but without going into much more detail about the build, let's first show you what it looks like in action. Okay, here we go. So first off, I'm only in a 100 just because this build is not the quickest build for mobility purposes. So I just wanted to go through and just show a little bit of how it works. Ideally, we kind of want to be grounded if we can, because of our lack of mobility, and we do have like some AoE. We want to hit as many targets as possible. So this is just basically what it looks like. We kind of get surrounded, and we're going to drop our Phalanx, and they kind of surround us and beat up whatever is around, throwing out our judgments onto absolutely everything possible. And we really don't do much damage outside of that window. So one thing that is handy is when we pop Akkrats, it's going to remove the cooldown, and then we'll be able to use our Phalanx again. And then as they attack, it's going to reduce our cooldown off Akkrats, and it's kind of like a cycle. So one benefits the other. So there we go. As you can see, they kind of just destroy everything that's around them. We just have to wait for them to blow up. Around. So yeah, so the idea is we want to be surrounded as much as possible. We can be a little squishy. And then see, I had to just sit and wait for it to come off CD. Get a little bit of burst of speed there. And we're just spamming our Condemned all over the place while our Phalanx attack. Kind of elite hunting to an extent. There we go. And moving on and on. But as you can see, we're not very fast in the speed department. Just a little bit unfortunate. The only one thing probably that I don't like about this is just how slow it is. But if we're able to pull a decent amount and get surrounded, is actually quite strong. It's just the lack of mobility. We do get occasional speed bursts, but it's not like the Valor set where we get on our pony and just run for days and days and days. I'm actually going to use my Phalanx there away from everything. Go. So you kind of just wait for them to blow up and then you move on. Down the floor here. Back into the Akkrats. So I'll just use this. Keep going. There we go. And we got another pylon there. We're gonna make our way over there. Jugs do take a little while, just due to, of course, the fact that they are jugs and they're unaffected by the Bane of the Trap. I thought I already cast them. This is pretty much all there is to the build. We're just going to constantly reset them, spam our Condemns, wait for them to blow up, move on to the next pack. and so on and so forth. Utilizing that they're just going to reset the cooldown off each other as they deal damage. So use that, pops Akkrat's bat, and then we were able to use Akkrat's to reset the cooldown off it. So it's kind of just a nice little cycle that we got going on. Occasionally, it doesn't line up 100%, so you have a little bit of downtime. So you do need to spec some cooldown reduction. As you can see, we're kind of slowing down here. Like, it's not a speedy build by any means. Oh. Then I accidentally dropped that back there. Let's go up and drop it on Elite. Go. We're almost there. This is pretty much all there is to it. There's not much more to this build other than this. You're pretty tanky because you're always in Akkrats. But of course we are vulnerable to the elements, so like poisons and all the magic effects. We want to be aware of that. And we're actually using our strength gems in our gear as opposed to diamonds because we are wearing the guardian set, so we're getting twice the bonus from our strength, so we're going to be dealing more damage out of that. So that's why we're a little bit more squishy as well, because we're just lacking that extra resistance that we usually have. This is almost spawned the guardian, so I can't iterate again like how slow this is, but it is pretty powerful. The higher you go, it does like the damage output is really strong. It's just the mobility is a little bit of the drawback to the build. But my gear is all just regular gear. I don't have any ancients, don't have any augments. I already cleared a 105 in about 7 minutes. I wanted something a little bit quicker for the video. I'm not sure if that's actually happening. I'm about the same actually, so but I know that easily if I spend a little bit of time I could probably get that build up to probably 120s without much effort. And it is currently the top build for Satyrs at the moment. It's just not as speedy as the Valor set. Stop. These tornadoes actually hurt a fair bit. See if I don't die here. There we go. Probably took just as long as if I had did a 105, so I might as well have done a 105, and for all I know, the 110 is probably going to be 7 minutes as well, just because the damage output is pretty solid, and it's just the speed that's holding us back. Anyways, that's enough about that. That took a little bit longer than what I was hoping, so let's get into the gear and skills and all that fun stuff. Alright, let's take a look at the items that we use in this build. So we are wearing Ring of the Royal Grandeur, so we only need 5 pieces of the Akkhan set, and we are also wearing the Guardian set, as well as Focus and Restraint and Captain Crimson. So there's a lot of set pieces involved in this build. So for the Akkhan set, we are wearing the helmet, the shoulders, the chest, the gloves, and the neck. And for the Guardian set, we're wearing the bracers and the belt. So those unfamiliar with the Guardian set, is for every 1,000 vitality, we're going to get 1% melee damage reduction. And for every 1,000 base strength, dex, or int, we're going to get range damage mitigation. And then the 3-piece bonus is it doubles basically, it's going to double our strength, dex, int, and vit. And so basically give us twice as much damage mitigation from there, as well as increasing our survivability and damage from increasing our main stats, which is why we have 25,000 strength and 11,000 vit, and I don't even have any augments on. It's also why we are wearing the rubies in our gear, because we're going to get twice the benefit from the strength, so that's why we got that in there. For our rings, we're using, as I said, Restraint and Focus, so this is Bastions of Will. So when you hit with a resource generating attack, or primary skill, we're going to deal 50% increased damage. And then when we hit with a resource spending attack, we're going to get another 50% damage buff. The Captain Crimson set that we're wearing for our pants and boots is the two pieces. This main thing is we get a little bit of life regen, but we're going to get 20% cooldown reduction and 20% resource cost reduction. And then the three pieces damage dealt is increased by our percent of cooldown, and our damage taken is reduced by a percent of cost reduction. So we're going to get some damage and survivability out of that set there. And then for our shield, we are using the Unrelenting Phalanx. So this is just, it's going to cast it now twice, as well as got a buff in there where it can deal up to 60% more damage. And then for our weapon, we're using the Blade of Prophecy. So this is to condemned enemies, also trigger Condemned's explosion, and the damage of Condemned is increased by 800%. So that's, excuse me, so that's our main damage ability. So we're going to get that big buff there. And then the Sanctified Affix that we're going for is every 2 seconds, call down Fists of the Heavens on a random nearby enemy. The only difference this time is because we're not using Steed Charge, we're not going to get that bonus damage, but it's just going to be a nice little additional damage throughout the dungeon. For the legendary gems that we are using in this build, as mentioned, we are using Enforcer, so increase the damage of our pets by a certain percent, and then at rank 25, our pets take 90% less damage, which doesn't really matter because they can't die anyways. We're also using Bane of the Stricken, so each attack you make against an enemy increases the damage it takes by your attacks, and then so that's a stacking buff. And then at rank 25, we're going to gain 25% increased damage against bosses and Rift Guardians. And then lastly, the one that's basically in all builds is Bane of the Trapped. Increased damage against enemies under the effects of control impairing effects by a certain percent. And then at rank 25, we're going to gain an aura that reduces the movement speed of enemies within 15 yards by 30%, thus giving us the benefit that is going to proc the damage bonus. For Kanai's Cube, so in our shield or weapon slot, we're going to use Frider's Wrath. I might have mispronounced that, but anyways, Condemn has no cooldown and has this damage increased by 800%, but instead costs 40 Wrath. For our armor, we're going to be using Stone Gauntlets, so getting hit increases our armor by 50%, and reduces our movement speed by 15%, and our attack speed by 20, and that can stack up to 5 times. But because we're always in Akkhan, we can't be slowed, so we kind of just get the free armor. And without the slow effect, if you ever find yourself outside of Akkhan, you're going to find yourself very slow, very quickly, and potentially very dead. And then lastly, in our jewelry, we're using Ring of Royal Grandeur, which of course is reduce the number of items needed for set bonuses by 1, which is how we can wear 5-piece, get the 6-piece, and 2, and how we're getting all the bonuses for all the different sets that we're having. For this skills, so we're actually using Akkhan's Champion with Rally. I know most of the time we're using Prophet, but we're using Rally this time. And the reason for that is it's going to reduce the cooldown on your other abilities, which is why we can go into Akkhan's and then pop Phalanx right away and keep that cycle bouncing back and forth off each other. We're also using Laws of Valor with Unstoppable Force. So it's going to increase our attack speed and reduce our wrath cost. For our wrath generator, we are using Slash. So we're just going to slash in front and we're going to get increased armor for each enemy that we hit. For now, we're using also Phalanx with shield bearers. So what summons our powerful avatars who form a wall before you. So that's kind of, as you see here, that's these guys that just go around us, beat up everything for us. We're using Iron Skin with Flash. So this is where we're going to get a little bit of movement boost once we get hit, and we're also and it gives us some increased protection at the same time. Sorry about that. And then lastly, we're using Judgment with Debilitate, so pass Judgment on all enemies in an area, immobilizing them in place for a short duration, and enemies in the judged area deal reduced damage. For our passes, we are using Heavenly Strength, so this lets us wield a two-hander as well as have a shield, and our damage dealt is reduced by 20%. Binary, so we're gaining 1.5% strength for every gem socketed into your gear, which is also going to be huge because with the Guardian set, we're getting the strength bonus from that as well. And then I'm using Lord Commander because the damage dealt by Phalanx is increased by 20%. And then lastly, using Holy Cause, the amount of damage dealt by your weapon is increased by 10%. And whenever we deal holy damage, we are healed for 1% of our total life. So this brings us to the end of the video. As I said a few times throughout the gameplay, this is a very slow build, but it does have lots of potential. The damage output is very, very strong. That being said, currently at the moment, it is the top Satyr build. With augments and all that stuff, it's in the mid 140s right now. It's super strong. It's just very slow. So not a speed build by any means. If you want a speed build, go back to the Thor build, or that's what I call the Ages of Valor. That'll be what you'll want if you want to run speeds. Anyways, this is a strong push build, just slow. Can't get over how slow it is, but it does take a little bit getting used to. The combination of using Ackrats to then pop the Phalanx is just basically how this build works. One resets the cooldown on the other, and you're just going to wander around, collect enemies, get stacked up on, pop your Phalanx, watch them die, move forward, pop it again, so on and so forth. Anyways, that's enough rambling for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know below. I'll do my best to answer them. As always, we appreciate like, share, and subscribe, so please click those buttons. And of course, you can find us on Twitch. We'll be streaming on Thursdays and Saturdays, so come check us out and let's have some fun. So until next time, I hope to see you on Twitch and in the next video.